Hi again then guys, and welcome to another special projects build, but this time it's not a replica of a real world car that isn't featured in the game, which is what we would usually do. This time it's something a bit different, which we've done tons of on Gran Turismo 6, and that is custom builds. So basically taking something which doesn't exist in the real world, and then doing a fictional interpretation of it in the game, kind of like engine conversion equivalents in terms of power and torque, that kind of thing, or models of certain cars that don't exist in real life. Now on this occasion I envision this one as kind of a mashup, not an official model of course, but something more like a personal conversion, like the Mach 40 for instance in the game. Now to build this car, you'll want the Mercedes A45 AMG as the base vehicle, and then basically the concept behind it is I wanted to give the car the performance and the spec of what would happen if you put the C63 AMG engine of the W204 shape, which is the version that's on Gran Turismo 6, which is my personal favourite version of that one, in terms of the looks in particular. What would happen if you took the 6.2 litre V8 from that sedan and dropped it into this A-Class? So in effect, an A63 AMG with, of course, the all-wheel drive that this one has. So I've increased the weight to, in effect, make up what the increased engine weight would do to the car, and also increase the power, of course, to match what that car's putting out, which is around 480 horsepower. Now, as far as the upgrades, I'd recommend upgrading it enough to get 105% weight and 135% power. Now the power in particular I would recommend having at that level, but then as far as the weight, of course you could change that. I've opted to increase it by about 80 kilos over the standard car to represent the kind of increase in weight due to the engine and the gubbins inside the vehicle. Now it would probably work out to be more than that, it would probably be closer to 1700 kilos, but we're just going to keep it mellow. We don't want to go extremely heavy. It's still a hatchback at the end of the day. As far as the tyres, I've gone for sport softs. You could put it on hards if you wanted to make it even more tail happy, because this is primarily a tune for fun rather than for racing. Although you could try it in N500 if you wanted to. As far as the suspension, we dropped the ride height to 130mm because again, it's not a race car. You want it to feel like a production vehicle or a modified car, but not a ridiculous one. I still want it to feel like a street car. As far as the frequency, we've got 1.85 front and rear. The anti-roll on 5. For the dampers, on compression I've got 63, then 90 for the rebound, neutral camber and toe. As far as the diff, I've opted for the lowest initial torque, then the highest acceleration and braking all round on 60. That makes the car very tail happy, but also at the same time very easy to drive. It improves the turn in as well, because I know some people don't like the fact that the A45 is a bit heavy over the front end due to the all-wheel drive. And as far as the gearbox, I've actually opted to leave it with the standard 7-speed, because for one thing, the gear shifts sound more authentic to a real car with that automatic gearbox, or DSG it probably has, I haven't checked, but it also allows the car to sound more accurate in terms of not having the gear whine of a straight-cut race gearbox. So again, it just adds to the authenticity of it. So that's what I've done to the car. There is, as usual, room for personal variation in there as well. And as far as the looks, as you can kind of tell in a second, and also from the thumbnail with the colour, some of the bodywork changes I've done in the livery editor, I was inspired by, in particular, the C63 Black Edition, which of course does not have the specs of the sedan, but that's more for just the visual side of things. So if you want the visual livery that I've done, you can find that by searching HSG in the community livery search section, or you can just find it from my community page anyway, if you've already got me as a friend on PSN. So that's it for the tune and for the livery. What though about what it looks like and performs like in action? Well, let's take it out on the track to find out. Now, the main thing that I would change about this particular build if I could is the sound, because of course the car is not going to sound like the 6.2 litre V8 that's in the C63, but there's not much you can do about that. We can't do actual engine conversions, of course not yet at least. You can just mimic the kind of specs that engine would put out in terms of power and torque. Now, the way the car performs is that it's fast and competitive, but also a lot of fun. As I said, this is not a race tune. If you happen to use it for racing, then good for you, maybe even win races with it, but it's designed for fun, first and foremost, and it's designed to drift fairly easily as well. Now, in order to drift, sometimes if it's a long sweeping corner, the car can actually initiate a drift itself if you just turn in hard and keep the throttle buried. But if you want to initiate a drift, say through a hairpin for instance, just pull the e-brake, or the handbrake as we call it in the UK, and you can pretty easily drift this thing. Because of the short wheelbase as well and the kind of chunky proportions, it's actually really good for tight corner manoeuvrability. So it's super easy to use. It actually copes with the power increase very well, which isn't too surprising given that it is a pretty powerful hot hatch anyway. And you actually can't tell the weight is there either. It does not feel heavy at all. So if you do decide to use this fictional build of what an A63 could feel like, then of course I hope you have a lot of fun with it. But that's it for this Special Projects custom tune overall. Of course, I've already done others on the channel, which you can also check out. And for now, as always, thanks for watching.